Yeah, that so many of us are abandoning ourselves for love and for money. Thanks, Derek. Um, and what I mean by that is a really subtle, nuanced, emotional wound that most of us are living with that we don't even realize. And that is this hustle and grind energy that so many of us have learned how to do in this world, and essentially it makes us really abandon our body and abandon our heart, and that's how many of us end up sick or burnt out or overwhelmed or with failed relationships. And so I'm calling forth, especially women who have this wound running in the background, this self-abandonment wound that began really early in life. It's a connection and attachment wound that happened likely with our parents, and not to shame or blame them, but it's the reality that it likely happened then. And we learned at that point how to abandon ourselves to get love. And then we grew up in this world that says that we get love by being successful and by having status. And so we learn to abandon ourselves for success and status and money. And it's not that any of those things are bad. I stand for women especially becoming the most powerful economic force on the planet. I think we really do need that. I stand for women especially becoming millionaires and multimillionaires. But I know that we can't do it in a hustle and grind, toxic masculine way. And so I was actually having a conversation with a client this morning, and P.S. if you're here and you're listening, I'd love to know that you're here. So if you would say hello in the comments, or if you're listening to the replay, just type replay in the comments, and I will respond later because I'll check back in on this. So my client, one of something that happened recently is that, we've been working on her strategies to reach more clients and, to get her work out into the world. And she's been focusing on those strategies so much so that she started putting pressure on herself, and she started feeling overwhelmed, which is like, can you relate, right? So many of us can relate to this, that we're trying to be successful, and so we're trying to do the things that someone says we should do to, get to our goal. And in the process, she's not able to do it because she has a lot of other things going on. And so she has put her worth into the fact that she's either doing it or she's not doing it, or she's making progress or she's not making progress. And so she started feeling like a failure. And she wasn't able to see how she's been in this pattern actually for many years, that her worth is connected to how much she's producing rather than her inner state. And so in that process, likely, and what's happening with her is that she's self-abandoning to try to fill the need of feeling worthy. And it never actually happens, It doesn't happen that way. And so what's really important is when you're working with a coach who can actually help you see that, you can actually start to work on that deeper worthiness wound that's really dictating the nervous system, that's making your nervous system go in this fight or flight, creating adrenal fatigue and actually creating chronic illness in your body, and ultimately creating abandonment of yourself, where when you start feeling sick from that, you might not notice it until you start feeling sick. And so then you start feeling like even more of a failure because you got sick. And then you have a trauma because you don't want to ever let that happen again. And so here's what's really key, is that will show up again and again and again as you try to achieve anything, because you have learned that most of the time you abandon yourself, meaning you get sick or you get heartbroken. And so you no longer trust yourself. and then you hold yourself back because you don't want to take the risk that that happens again. And this is a really important pattern that's happening for so many women who have huge missions, ministries, destinies, companies, businesses to create, and they're not, because they're feeling this sort of subtle resistance that they're not even clear is happening. And so I want to bring it to your awareness because I think it's really important. It's really important as you grow and as you are creating the next level of your life to start to understand that the outer progress, the money or the relationship, is not actually what you're wanting. And even if you get close, you'll self-sabotage because you are abandoning yourself, because you work past the points where you're tired and your body says no, and you actually put all of your worthiness in the outer progress, and you'll never actually feel happy and feel fulfilled from that. And so all that's like pointing you to is to clear up the wound that happened early in life. And once you do that, that's actually when you can achieve and receive at much higher levels than you ever thought possible. The millionaire, status that you might want to be at, or the love and the family status that you might want to be at. That really comes with ease, and it doesn't come from working to try to fulfill the things from the wounds, okay? So the other thing that I just wanted to mention here is, kind of like along the same lines, that we have to create models of sustainability. We are not meant to hustle and grind and work until we can't work anymore. Like the statistics of people getting sick, whether they're in corporate environments or they're in the coaching environment or they're the entrepreneur environment, there's just so many people getting sick. And this really just comes from this connection wound with ourselves, with not being really connected to ourselves. So what I'm calling for is the millionaire women or the six-figure coaches who want to be seven-figure coaches. We have to clean the codependency, the attachment wounds, the self-abandonment, and the worthiness wounds up, so that we don't strive from a place that will never fulfill us, and we actually start to model a different model, okay? We start to get out of the hustle and grind energy, and we actually start to model embodied meaning like healing trauma and wounds that are actually dictating your nervous system, and sustainability, meaning we can sustain it over a long period of time because we're not on the run and the go all the time. That's how we create embodied sustainable wealth, and that's what we need to stand for and call for in all industries. But us coaches are really, embodying love and evolution and ascension in a professional setting. So we must model it. We must model it, especially women standing for other women. The masculine, toxic masculine hustle and grind cannot be the way that we do this anymore. It's embodied, but it is wealthy. There are a lot of goals, right? You don't get to, it's not one or the other. You don't have to give up, the pursuit and the desire to live a big life. You don't have to give that up to be healed or healing and healthy and embodied, It's both. And that is what the new paradigm is. That's the new era that we're going into. So I just wanted to kind of pop on here and say hi and give this message today.